Hi everyone, thanks for coming back. Today we're going to talk about infinite loops. And an infinite loop is a loop that just keeps going and going and going and doesn't terminate. So let's take the example we spoke about last in our last video, the for loop. So in a for loop, it's kind of hard to get an infinite loop out of this, except when you might have some code here and like lots of code, and somewhere down here you decrement the variable that you're using to check. So let's say if we accidentally decremented control, which means reduced or took away from, this is also like CTR -1. So here we add 1 to control, but then we take it away, or we take it away, then we add 1. This isn't going to work because if we run this, it's just going to go on forever and ever and ever and ever. Okay, so what can we do? I'm going to terminate this manually. So you can see we got tons and tons of 1s. So just check your code and make sure that you're not accidentally decrementing something. Sometimes students are so eager to go into the code that they forget their conditions and their checks. So I'm just going to have to make this up here, and we'll initiate that to 1. So say like you're doing something and you know you have to make this loop, but you're real eager to get in the code, and you say, oh, you know what, depending on my code, I'm going to change my check later on. Then you go to run it, and this for loop will run. There aren't any conditions to check, but it's still going and going and going. So those are 2 ways you could kind of mess up your for loop. So we really don't want to do that. I'm going to comment this out, and we're going to talk about ways to mess up your while loop. So I'm going to have to bring this back up here. Remember that Java code executes linearly. Oops, what did I do? Okay. So what about here? What about in our do loop? Or sorry, our do while loop? Well, that's easy. I could forget to decrement it, just from the get-go. Sorry, increment it. So if I don't increment my control variable, again, our loop is going to run forever. And we have an error that exists with the project. Oh, I put this in the wrong spot. Okay. Let's try that again. And there, our loop is going infinitely, and it will keep going, but I forced it to stop right there. So another way is that you do increment it, but again, somewhere in the code you lose track and you do this. So you decrement it and then you increment it, so the value of control really isn't changing. So if we go ahead and run this, we're still going to get an infinite loop. So it's really easy to maybe forget what you're doing or click the wrong button on the keyboard. So just keep that in mind when you're coding out these loops. So I'm not going to go into why the while loop may be an infinite loop, because the do and the do while are kind of the same. Either you increment it and then you decrement, or you forget to increment your control at first, or you forget to set your Boolean value to true or false. So those are all reasons why you might get an infinite loop there. All right, so just to wrap up, infinite loops are loops that keep going on forever and ever because we did not program them right. So if you get an infinite loop, take a step back, look at your code, and see where you may have messed up. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks, guys.